Okay, this video here is going to be making a four-legged bowl. I'm going to make it out of, out of a piece of pecan here. And the bowl needs to have a really square piece of wood, a good square blank to start. That way at the end your legs will end up pretty equal. So the squarer you can get it, the better. That's why I'm going to show making the blank part of it, how I make up a square blank. First start off by mounting it on this sled that I got here from my bandsaw, and I'll cut it down this pith line to because I want to get as much as the pith out of it. And the pith will be the bottom part of the bowl, so more of it will turn out during the process of making it. And once I get that one flat edge there, then I can use the fence to cut lengthwise both sides in the top of the blank, like this here. And I should put the four sides pretty much square. Now I'll square the ends off to the sides. This last cut here is I'm just dropping the height of the blank down a little bit. I didn't need it to be that tall. I'm just checking it for square.
7 9/16 by 7 9 by 16 by 3.5.
And that's about a good dimension to start with. You can go whatever size you want, really. Just mount it on that worm screw. The first hole I put it in, there was a little narrow and the screw wouldn't go in, so I had to widen it up a bit there. Just tighten it up good on the chuck. The reason I'm making this video is because I did a wood turning demo for my local wood club here in Northeast Florida, Jacksonville area, and I messed it up by making this exact same mistake that I'm going to do right now. I'm going to start rounding it down, and then I realized that that's not what I need to do. But for some reason during my demo I did that same thing and I kept on going. But so now I'm gonna take blank down a little bit to get rid of that cut that I just made there, so I can start it right. So I'm just gonna face it off. Yeah, I felt bad when I did that demo and I made this mistake, because it pretty much put that wormhole on the wrong side of the bowl and it ended up with a hole in the bottom of it. So it's kind of embarrassing. So to start this off the right way, I'm going to create a recess on this side of the bowl using the dividers. And if you use dividers to mark out where you want your recess, just make sure you don't touch both ends of it at the same time, otherwise you'll fling them all over the place. And I use a parting tool to start making the recess. and a gouge to clean out the middle of it. And I use the, here I'm just going to clean up that angle to accept the jaws of the chuck good. Won't need that screw no more, so I'm going to take it out. Okay, now I'm at the point where I can go ahead and round it over. This is the top part of the bowl. So I'm going to create kind of like a dome, make it like a dome from the top to the bottom. The grind on this gouge is probably something like a 40-40 degree. I don't know if it's a true 40-40 degree, but it's close enough. And it works really great for me to shape the outside of bowls. Not so good for the inside of bowls, but for the outside, it works good. You can get around it like this. I like putting it on a recessed mountain like this so I can get around the bowl easily. Get nice, smooth, continuous cuts from the top to the bottom. You can see the shape of the outside of the legs now. You see a little tear out along them. That's no big deal because that's sanded out easily at the end. They're still a little narrow for my liking right now, so I'm going to make a few more passes, and that'll widen them legs up a little bit. The wider they are, the more stable they'll be when you're turning the inside underneath the legs. And when I make these last few passes before I do that, I'll take the gouge over to the grinder to put a nice clean edge on it. Get the best cut possible. So now I'm going to put another recess on this part of the bowl here so I can flip it around and work on the bottom side of it. And using the skew there to match up the angle on the jaws of the chuck so you can get the best possible grip. I'm just going to put some reference lines on here to just to start out, and a starting point for thinning out the legs and cutting out that area right there. It's not going to be the finished width, but it's just a reference to start off with. You see that little tear out on that top corner there? I'm going to end up shortening the legs to get rid of that later in the video. Actually, I don't think I show it on video, but that's how I get rid of that. I just shorten the legs up a little bit. So I'm just going to use a parting tool to push straight in to establish a width for my legs, a beginning width. Then I'll use that 40-degree grind on here to start cleaning out this area. I'll work it from the center of the bowl to the outside, going right to left here on that side, and then when I want to work on the inside of the legs, then I'll cut straight in with the area, but the video's not out of grid for some reason, but I'm just going to push straight in here, following the contour of the outside of the bowl, thinning down the legs some. And I go back and forth from one side to the other. See it rotate the gouge there. Just when you get the gouge in there deep and it's getting closer to the other side, if you have it, the gouge closed, the flute closed up good, it won't catch. If you hit the other side, it'll just rub it, no big deal. Here I just line up the bevel of the gouge to be parallel to the outside of the bowl and push straight in and try to follow the outside contour with it. That's the process you use to thinning down the legs a little bit. Yeah, just get that bevel kind of parallel to the outside and got the flute closed up pretty good, and then you ease your way in it and then push straight down it. Here I'm just lowering the depth of the bowl a little bit, because you want the bowl, the finished product's going to be sitting on the legs and not that center part, so I'll bring that in a little bit. That thunking you're hearing is the heel of the bevel rubbing on the bowl. I'm always don't want to rotate the handle too far outward to get the catch the bowl on them legs, or the gouge on the legs. So that's the sound you hear, and it's the bevel's actually making too much contact. So I switched to a smaller gouge. It's a 1/2-inch one to give me a little more clearance, but you'll still be able to hear that thumping sound. It's right, I'm starting about right there, because I don't want to swing it out any further. Here I'm using a little homemade hollowing tool. It'll reach up in there and clean out that area right there. Just make real light passes with it and make a nice rounded contour up in that area. I find that tool works pretty good for that job. The tip of that cutter is a rounded tip, so it works pretty good. Just kind of work it back and forth. Here I'm just going to deepen out that recess a little bit. I cut the bowl down, so I made the recess too shallow to use again. I want to deepen it up so when I flip it around, I have a good grip. And I'll take my skew here and just clean that edge right up there. Good contact. Now you can see that little chip out on that foot right there. That's the part I'll shorten the legs a little bit to get rid of that. I don't think I show it on video, but that's how I get rid of that. I'll just turn them legs down a quarter of an inch or so. Use that 40-degree gouge where I just push it straight in mostly, and because right now I'm just hogging out the center part of the bowl. I'm not concerned with getting a good clean cut or a good looking shape right now. Just use this gouge to push in straight in. As soon as I get my rest set at the right height that I'm comfortable with. This also widens out the opening of the bowl a little bit. When I did my demo at the club the other day, I wasn't paying much attention to the bottom and inside of the bowl, and really didn't have the shape that I wanted to get. It was a little steep, so when I was doing this process, I separated the bottom of the bowl from the top of the bowl. Another embarrassing moment, but I had another blank and continued on. And here now I got the 70-degree gouge. It's ground out with a little bit of heel relief on it. That way I can make one continuous pass from the top to the bottom. And it makes a nice clean cut. Just about there. Just checking the thickness of it, make sure it's good. Do some sanding on it. Use the orbital sander to knock off that ridge where it transitions from the flat side of the blank to the bowl. And it does pretty good. You can see it's rounded off pretty good here. And use the little drum sander wheel to take off the sharp edges of the arches. Do a little more sanding there. If you have access to a vacuum chuck, that's what really makes turning off that recess on the bottom really easy. If you don't have a vacuum chuck, then a jam chuck will work fine. It just means you have to do a little more sanding on the bottom by hand. Just checking to make sure it runs true. And I'm just going to work the shape that I like that on the bottom of the bowl. Shape it however you desire. Just make sure your fingers don't get in the way of them legs flying around there. It'll put a knot on your knuckles. One little ridge left there I'm trying to get out. Do some shear scraping along that transition right there. That'll take care of that. Got a little sanding to do. Just make sure you don't get your fingers on them legs flying around there. But yeah, this bowl is about finished. Those little marks there is from where that heel of the gouge was knocking on it when I was shaping it under there. I was able to sand them out no problem. But in this video, I'm not going to show finishing this bowl with any type of finish or anything like that. That's just another video, I reckon. But I hope this clarifies if there's anybody from my Woodturning club that watched me mess up my demo. Hope they see this and they're like, I can see what he was talking about now. Here, I just want to do a little sanding on the bottom of the legs to make sure they're nice and clean. That's it. That's how you make it. Good, fun project. And I hope that clears everything up for the folks.